The Radical Openness handout is one of the best ways to understand the level of intimacy between two characters. It's a way to understand relationships and even build relationships. So here's how this thing works. There are different levels ranging from 1 to 10, 1 being the acquaintance level and 10 being a full-on, committed, loving relationship. So essentially say you're on level 3 and you're talking about the political and economical state of the world right now. If they agree or start sharing their opinion, your relationship with that person could potentially bump up to a level 4, also known as the match plus 1. But on the other hand, if you start talking about the political and economical state of the world right now and they seem disinterested or uncomfortable, then you may just stay in that level 3 range until you find another non-personal topic to discuss. So yeah, that's essentially the Radical Openness handout. So instead of using it to improve our lives in real relationships, let's instead apply this to our original characters, because that's a better use for it. I've written a book, and that book has a character named Gioni, and Gioni is the main character. Therefore, we can easily see her many relationships and use the examples here to see the different levels. Of course, I'll be using examples from cartoons, animes, and even books to show how the Radical Openness handout can apply to many relationships, both platonic and romantic. So yeah, without further ado, let's examine everyone's favorite punching bag and her relationships. So we are going to hit each one of these examples and apply them to different scenes. Let's start with level 1 to 2. At this stage, you talk about everyday non-emotional events. I like to call this the neurotypical stage because the conversations are so mundane. Like the weather, a restaurant, the colors of the room, topics that lack any kind of real opinion or strong stances. You talk about these things if you barely know the person but want to know them. I guess a good example of characters meeting for the first time would be Atticus and Gioni. The conversation doesn't go too deep at first. He asks if she's a spy. She says no. They talk about food later in the chapter and how everyone in City 2 eats mainly produce, while in City 3 they actually prepare their food. So yeah, basic, mostly non-emotional conversations. Level 3 to 4, this also includes non-emotional conversations, but the difference is that you start talking about personal goals, such as politics, philosophy, and topics of that kind of nature. Like for me, as an example, I don't tell people I'm a YouTuber. Like that's a very personal thing to me. But if we reached level 3 to 4, I may bring up that this is something I love doing. Now let's apply this to Gioni. A good example of this would be Gioni and Lamisha. Though they've known each other for a long time, they're not really friendly towards each other. Gioni shares with Lamisha that she wants to be an agent. That's a very non-emotional statement that also happens to be a personal goal. Lamisha tells her to stay out of trouble. Gioni promises and then proceeds to break that promise within a couple of hours. So yeah, we'll talk about negative interactions later and going down levels, but let's keep moving. Level 5 to 6. Now we are going to the juicy stuff. This may include revealing private feelings or emotional judgments about personal events. You can also recognize this as giving hot takes. When you start sharing controversial or unacceptable opinions, you have reached level 5 to 6. A good friendship would probably stay around this range. A perfect example would be Gioni and Darren, especially when they have their little kumbaya moment in chapter 6. Darren has some real hot takes about their situation. It starts off simple when Gioni mentions that she likes the view of the city. Darren then proceeds to say that he's sick of seeing it. Then later when Gioni mentions that she wants to be an agent but failed her exam, that's when Darren spills it all. He talks about his 40-year debt to being an agent, about how being an agent is only a status symbol, and then he implies regretting this career path, only doing it for monetary reasons. That's not something you want to be walking around saying in City 2, but here Darren is saying it to Gioni. And of course, due to this being a socially unacceptable opinion, Gioni gets pissed off by it, mainly because she believes it's better to have status and money regardless of the cost, regardless of the debt. And now the friendship probably won't be as personal ever again because of this failed interaction. Darren felt like he crossed the line. Because of that, he quickly apologizes. And you could bet your bottom dollar he won't bring this topic up again to Gioni. Okay. Level 7 to 8. This is a level that I really love because this is where deep friendships and close bonds start to form. By the time we get to the second book, yes, there are 2 of them. But anyway, this level is interesting because now instead of talking about hot takes and socially unacceptable opinions, we now start sharing opinions about each other. The moment where you share tears and laughter. The moment you say how you feel about the other person. Gioni and Emmett are that example. We finally get some answers explaining Gioni and Emmett's friendship. For context, up to this point, they've been hanging out every single day with each other for weeks. They've shared their dreams, they've shared their hot takes, but at a point of uncertainty, their friendship starts to fail, and at that breaking point, Emmett wants to be nowhere near Gioni. Emmett says that she can stop pretending to care, and Gioni confirms rather aggressively that she does care about him. This scene is extremely melodramatic, but I swear it makes sense with more context. But trust me when I say, the moment Gioni establishes her personal opinion about Emmett, it helps with healing that broken friendship, because something that was implied is now deliberately and undeniably said. Just to deviate for a second, that's why it's so important to tell people how you feel about them. Telling a friend that you care, or that you're fun to be around, or that they're inspiring, or whatever, positive personal opinions could do wonders for a friendship, or even a potential romance. Now, level 9. This one is so important for many reasons because it truly toes the line between a friendship and a romance. Many characters that you know in fiction are in level 9 purgatory. This includes revealing feelings of affection or desire for more intimacy. Most importantly, this includes sharing trauma or being highly vulnerable with the other person. Level 9 would be Gioni and Brandon because they share how they want to spend time together. Level 9 is also Gioni and Kathy because they are always very vulnerable with each other, sharing stories of trauma and insecurity. So let's talk about that. Let's start off with Gioni and Brandon. Chapter 9 of the book happens to be a great example of level 9. 9 and 9. Did I do that on purpose? No, but I'll take credit regardless. Anyways, Gioni in this chapter is about to do something crazy, like leaving forever, and because of this fact, I believe it pushed Brandon, who is more shy and reserved, to take more action regarding their relationship. Make a special note on this phrase, "I want to spend more time with you," because that's basically what Brandon is saying throughout the entire chapter. He tells Gioni not to leave, not once, but twice, even pulling her into a hug. He offers to hang out with her later so that they could train together. He tries his hardest to make a case against leaving, saying that she doesn't have a plan, she's not thinking straight, that everything she does is risky. He even gives her gifts, the compass and the carrots. Like there's no such thing as subtle when it comes to Brandon in this chapter. And even on Gioni's part, this whole rant where she's disclosing very embarrassing and vulnerable aspects about herself. These characters are deep in the level 9, but let's move on to Gioni and Kathy. Gioni and Kathy can be interpreted as a crack ship. And trust me, we'll do a deep dive on crack ships in this video, but for now, let's establish my crack ship. And you know what? It's also Koi's crack ship, because they also partake in this lunacy. But anyways, while Brandon's actions are insanely obvious, Kathy is way more subtle. Kathy recognizes that bond between Gioni and Brandon, and you can kind of see her attempts at distancing them. I mean, as quickly as chapter 2, she's saying things like, "Who cares if Brandon fell? Let's go. It's just us cool kids now." You could tell by that freaking smile, that freaking grin on her face, that she's happy that they're finally alone together. Chapter 22 is also kind of funny because Gioni starts talking about, "Oh, I miss Brandon. Oh, I can't find the compass." And then Kathy is all like, "Oh no. Anyway, I'd be sad if we were apart." And then suggests that they take a picture together. And then, oh my god, don't get me started on the monstrosity that is Pizza Pocket. Jesus Christ. When Gioni accuses Kathy of taking the Pizza Pocket, she immediately blames Brandon without any evidence other than he's guilty looking. Gioni doubles down, and Kathy says to ask him before they, and I quote, "ruin what we have." Of course, if you choose the option to triple down, Kathy crashes out, and it's crazy because what is supposed to be a very subtle thing about Kathy, she reveals everything about her true feelings, maybe even too much, and yes, that scene is obviously not canon, but you could get a real good idea from just this. It's almost like a one-sided thing where Kathy tries to be in level 9, but Gioni is clearly in level 7 to 8 with her. I should also add that they also share trauma with each other in that aforementioned chapter 22, so whether they like it or not, they're in level 9. I don't care. It just, maybe it's not a crack ship. Maybe I'm onto something. Maybe Koi's onto something. But if you're wondering if these three are in a love triangle, it's more like a love isosceles. Kathy is not trying that hard, honestly. She needs to try harder. There are so many examples I could give with Kathy and Gioni, but I'll just leave it there. I've said before that I see a lot of myself in Kathy. Oh my god. She's a very easy character to write for me. I've always been the jealous type. I made a kin meme on Instagram like 2 years ago, and I got clocked so fast. You know, it happens. It happens. But sorry to spend so much time on level 9, but that's where the budding romances start to start, you know? I also spent so much time there because I have no examples for level 10. Sorry. But hey, let's talk about it anyways. Level 10 is finally expressing love or intense feelings. This is where characters finally say that they want to spend their lives together, that they want to be together, that they're willing to sacrifice to be with one another. From the top of my head, I could think of Luz and Amity. They've expressed love and they're willing to sacrifice. Same with Ruby and Sapphire. They've also expressed love, but they're also willing to sacrifice. I think a big part of level 10 that doesn't really exist in level 9 is that sacrificing aspect. You know, that huge fight that happens and that way of resolving, saying that I won't do this anymore because I want to be with you. That's so freaking adorable! Honestly, I love level 10. It's such a beautiful thing to see characters reach this because it's not too common in fiction nor in real life. But yeah, I hope this helps you understand the radical openness handout a bit more. I want to talk about a few more things though before we close out this video. So there's two ways that I could think of building relationships with characters. The first way is having the characters start from level 1 and then reach level 10. That's always fun to watch. Some good examples again would be Amity and Luz. Sorry, this is my favorite romance. But anyways, they literally started on like -2, if I'm being real, and slowly climbed all the way to 10. It's just so incredible to watch. Haruhi and Tamaki also started on level 1, but I'm pretty sure they ended up on level 9 purgatory like every other character in fiction. We aren't getting a season 2, guys. You could forget it. But yeah, start on level 1, go to level 9 or 10. Big fans, no notes. The second way you could do this is have a character start the story in level 5 or level 7 or whatever, and then have it build up to a level 9 or 10. Katra and Adora, they were definitely on like level 7 or 8 before the story even started. Same thing with Ruby and Sapphire, they were like a level 9. They argued a bit, but then they came back so much stronger into a level 10. This being symbolized with the wedding, of course, and the fact that Garnet became less red over time. When having characters like these guys who skip over the levels, it's so important to add maybe a couple of flashbacks or callbacks, establishing how their relationship got to that point. I'm personally not the kind of person to write flashbacks, so another way is simply having the characters recall old memories, or just creating bonus side stories that give more context. Now, I want to talk about something truly near and dear to my heart. Crack ships. I want to explain partially why they exist. Let's start off with one of my favorites, Dawn x Scott. This one is so stupid, but it makes so much sense if you use the handout. Like, I think all Dawn said to him was that he wasn't held enough as a child, and then later in the episode, she hits this emote. Yapping about, I didn't know you were a beetle whisperer. But like Scott rejects her advances, so yeah, that's it. That's the whole entirety of their relationship, I believe. There's clearly not much to work with here, but the total drama fan base being the nut jobs that we are, I said we, including myself, we end up shipping these characters because they're clearly engaging on level 7 behavior. It does not matter that it was 2 sentences. The first scene shows a small bond on a personal level. Then later, Dawn establishes a small crush after realizing that they both have something in common. Both being able to talk to cockroaches, of course. And that's all the evidence shippers need to start shipping. That is not enough evidence to write a research report, but people will take that and run with it regardless. So like, who cares? Same goes for my second favorite crack ship, Zuko and Katara. Okay, I know it's not really a crack ship. I'm sorry. I'm gonna get stoned for saying this, but let's acknowledge what it is. Zutara is kind of random, but at the same time, it makes sense, you know? You can't have these characters isolated, sharing very personal things like them both losing their mothers to the Fire Nation and not expecting a ship to come out of it. They have so many more moments like this together, and unlike Scott and Dawn, you can actually write a report about these two. So yeah, it's just so interesting to watch. Even like My Hero Academia, the whole gag in the fandom about everyone being shipped with Midoriya, it makes sense because like Deku gets really personal really often with many characters. It's just a byproduct of decent writing when characters get interpersonal with each other. And you know what? I know what you're gonna say, and I want to make this clear. Just because characters get interpersonal and emotional with each other, that doesn't mean they're in a romantic relationship. But at the same time, don't get mad when the crack shippers start crack shipping. It's inevitable, okay? That's all I gotta say about this, okay? That's all I gotta say. But one thing I want to bring up, one last point about Dot. How come the crack shippers will fiend over this couple, but when Rodney starts a romance, people absolutely hate it? If you don't know who Rodney is, he's a total drama character who falls in love quickly with like every girl. For example, Jasmine discusses the plan for the challenge. He instantly falls in love with her. Scarlet says to watch out for the raccoon shit, and then he falls in love with her. It's weird, and here's why. They are saying level 1 phrases to Rodney, and Rodney is acting like they're on level 10, and people seem to really hate that. I mean, I want you to compare the Dot conversations to any conversation Rodney has with a girl, and you can kind of see why the shippers will ship Dot compared to like, you know, Rodney and ex whoever at the moment. One is just a nothing burger, and the other just oozes with interpersonal charm. That's why some people jump for some ships and not others. Okay, so rapid fire of some more romance blunders. Helga and Arnold in the first movie. Fun fact about your girl, I really love Hey Arnold. This is like my favorite TV show, but this kiss, bro. Yo, this was not it, y'all. This was not it. That kiss came out of nowhere. You could tell from Arnold's face. This reads more like lust than love. Please, dear viewer, know the difference between lust and love. This scene hurts, and I'm glad it was redeemed in the Jungle movie. Same thing with Sam x Freddy. I refuse to show the kiss for obvious reasons, but this is just the producer's provided fantasy. It came out of nowhere, and that's why it sits well with nobody. There's literal seasons worth of content. Literal seasons, I said, not episodes. Not segments, seasons worth of content that shows that Sam hates Freddy. Them being a couple makes no sense. Who am I to question it? But you know what, guys? You know what? No one has to follow the handout to a T, okay? There's many ways to depict a relationship. I just wanted to share an easy method of making it more believable. Real relationships take time, and there's so much fun that could be had when you take the time to allow characters to connect with each other. I don't have to stand here and tell you that. You already know the importance of relationship build-ups. I just wanted to share this in case it makes writing friendships and romances a bit easier. Comment down below what levels your characters are on. I'd love to know that. Or maybe if you know of any other fictional characters that are in the level 9 purgatory, like, this is just so funny to me. I want to know more. It's a case that happens way too often. But for now, I think that's it. that's the video. If you're interested, check out my book 2152, The Trifold Article. It's both animated and illustrated, sci-fi and adventure. I'm the kind of person who loves writing relationships, friendships, romance, so you can bet that there's a ton of that in this book. Anyways, that'll be linked below, as well as the newsletter. I have a Discord for artists and writers that'll also be linked below. Like and subscribe and whatever. That is much appreciated. Have fun while creating today, and I'll see you guys later.